today. I have the pleasure to present our today's panel specialists. First, we have Mr. Frank Harms from Germany. He is the Managing Director of the German Steel Tube Association and member of the European Steel Tube Association. Second, from United States, Mr. Don Gibeaut. He is the Global Product Manager Tubular for AjaxTocco Magnetics. Third, we have Enrico Caruso from Italy. He is the Executive Steel Trading Consultant for steel tubes. Last but not least, myself as the President of the ITA. I would like to give a little introduction. As you see, the Corona started in China, in Wuhan and Hubei province. After China, it also took control of Europe, of the United States, and also Brazil and India. So many countries have decided to lock down major parts of the public, industrial and private activities to protect human lives. This, in consequence, had caused that the consumption of the energy and most industrial goods has fallen totally apart. And major supply and service chains are not working anymore. Today, we will talk about 4 major market segments: the oil country tubular goods, automotive, mechanical engineering, and construction. How the Corona pandemic has influenced these important market segments of the steel tube and pipe market. Secondly, we will also discuss how can we serve the clients and how can we maintain customer contacts during this pandemic. I hope it will be interesting for you, and I hope you will have a lot of questions which you can also ask via the system. So I would like to hand over to our colleague, Mr. Frank Harms.
Okay, now everyone should be able to hear me. Thank you, Gunther. I do not see any slides now. Perhaps you should show them. I was asked to start with the impact of the Corona on the automotive market. Okay, and the next slide, please. Well, what you will see in the next slide is there it is. You see the emissions of new cars and light trucks in Germany, USA, Europe, and China. And what is clearly to be seen is that after a comparable low year in 2019, the figures crashed down in 2020. And they already recovered some way, and by the strongest in China. China almost reached the pre-crisis level and is slightly above, and we expect that it will recover further on. The sales in the world are to be seen in the whole year 2020 at a minus of 15%. In the first half of the year, it was almost 20%. Well, that's the first slide for automotive. Then we have machinery. In Germany, this is the slide on the left side. Inspections improved, but the situation, the situation still is really bad. And it's even worse, and this is the slide on the right side, outside of Germany. The order intake is still weak, and from the side of Germany, especially from outside of Germany. The situation in Germany itself is a little bit more stable than in general. And what you see on the, you do not see it, the situation in China is even better over there than in our region. And now the next slide is the influence on our industry. First slide is the apparent consumption of cold run tubes in Europe. And you can see that production will be in 2020 at an average of minus 10%. In the first half of the year, we had minus 20%, but the market is strongly recovering. And the same is for apparent consumption. Then we come to the hot rolled seamless tubes. Next slide, please. Very similar. Production and apparent consumption down in 2020, and even more than in the automotive industry, we see a minus of 20%. Strongly down due to the corona crisis. Although we have a lot of long-time contracts in this market segment, but market is recovering here too. And in the end, we have the side of the whole steel tube market without large diameter pipes, because this product is not so strongly depending on economic, is a project business. And we see a very similar picture. The production is down, apparent consumption is down, and we had a low in April and May, but we see recovery is ongoing, but we do expect that we will see the pre-crisis level only in 2022. This would be my first remarks. Thank you.
Okay, can we see the next slide, please? Okay, the OCTG industry is very much, or consumption for tube and pipes is very much depending on the number of rigs, the depth of the drilling, and the capacity of the rigs. As you see in this first slide here on the left side, you can see that a comparison of the rig count versus the oil price, and you can see that it is very, very parallel. That means if the oil price goes down, the number of rigs in operation is going down or is going up. Now, as a consequence, we can see that due to Corona, when the world oil consumption decreased by more than 30% from about 100 million barrels per day to only 70 million barrels per day, it was absolutely directly reflected in the consumption or in the number of rigs, because the oil price was collapsing by about 60% due to the tremendous oversupply of oil. We can see here until January 2020, the oil price was increasing to a level of about $60 per barrel. And then from January to May, it really collapsed down to 25. The WTI was even going below zero, but this had other reasons in essence. But we can say that WTI and Brent are having very similar developments. Here, this chart shows the WTI prices. Now you can see that on April 20th, the oil production countries have agreed to reduce the production by about 10 million barrels per day for the months May and June to stabilize the prices, which really showed effect. In May, you could see that the price was recovering up to $40 per barrel. Now, as of today, you must see that since then, the price is not changing very much. It is between 40 and 43 US dollar for WTI per barrel. Considering this price level, we have to, can we have the next slide, please? We have to compare that with the cost in the different countries to produce one barrel of oil. And you can see how challenging this Corona situation was. You can see in average the average price in the countries is somehow between 25 and 35 US dollars per barrel, depending. But this is an average price. That does not mean that even in these countries there is quite a spread between the different producers. And it is quite clear that the oil exploration industry immediately stopped its drilling activities at such low prices, which were at 25 to 30, and even nowadays 40. It's not really restarting again. And the United States, as the largest oil and gas producing country in the world, has reduced its important horizontal drilling activities. Horizontal drilling is representing the shale oil activities, and they have been reduced by 26% since March 2020. That means the tremendous and important shale oil producing companies are really having significant problems. And many analysts even expected bankruptcies of such companies who produce oil at higher prices. Now, if we see the prices for oil and for steel and pipe tubes, here I have from the FRED, that is the United States price level, has only reduced by about 4%. And it seems that it is now stabilizing at this lower level. But we have to see, as also Frank Harms has already said, many of these contracts are having longer duration, so the effect may be seen only later this year. And we can see that the usage of the OCTG tubes is not really great, so the pipe storages are filling up. And it is also to be expected that the order volumes and prices will be sliding down for the tube and pipe industry in the second half of this year. So it can be seen as a critical market for the tube and pipe industry. Can we have the next slide, please? Now, if we look at the construction industry, as our Russian friend has already said, is in some areas extremely strong. And we can see that the reduction of the growth in 2020 has been in some countries quite significant, in others not so significant. We can see that in the United States, we still have some growth of 2.6%. In the Euro countries, we have a shrink of about 5.4%, headed by France with 16 and Spain with 12, and Great Britain, which is not an Euro country, but has also more than 15%. But all the countries are expecting in 21 significant recovery. And we can see that the spending in the United States, as again Fred is showing, has been reduced by about 3.5% this year. But this is not as much as we might have expected. Still, we have a strong competition between tube and pipe structures and the concrete structures in this construction industry market. And we can see and we hear from many tube and pipe producers who are specialized on this segment that they have full order books for the next month still. And it is also so that it is a positive trend that the GDP growth and the urbanization will continue to be a mega trend, and they will definitely support this market segment. So as far as we can see, the companies being active in this business, they are feeling a quite or relatively good situation. Can we have the next slide, please? So in consequence, we can say the world tube and pipe stocks are full. That means when they are full, there is not such a demand. New supply contracts will consider lower prices and smaller supply lots, which is not so easy to be handled. That means flexibility and cost effectiveness will be even more demanding. Some weak traders and some weak producers are expected to go out of business. Some plants will probably be shut down because the capacity is too high. Regional, lean and agile, cost-effective, flexible and customer-oriented players have some advantages they can use. Optimized production facility as well as agile digital solutions offer, such as Industry 4.0, offer further opportunities to stay successful. And it is quite clear, interrupted and discontinued business situations always offer new strategic opportunities for such players who are quite strong. And we can say that best and strongest players with innovative business strategies will survive and will gain better business potentials. Can we have the next slide? Okay. Thank you.
Other parts of the world. Thanks for the ITA for putting this on. I'm going to give you a little bit more of what we call boots on the ground report when we look at the world tube market, OCTG, automotive, construction, and mechanical. The first comment is it's slow. It is slow in all segments. OCTG, I'm located in Houston, Texas, so that's a big push for us. We entered into 2020 with a very large backlog. We make very complex, large heat treat quench and temper lines, as well as all different types of equipment for tube manufacturing. But it seemed like the larger heat treat quench and temper lines, we ended up with 4 major orders going into 2020 that we were in manufacturing. And so that we still have one to go. We just finished last week the 3rd one, which I have a short video we'll show you towards the end. But 2019 was a record year. We do have activity in all these segments, but it is definitely slower. Automotive is definitely slow. Construction, we see kind of holding its own, and mechanical tubing, we even had a couple new mills announced in the US here recently in the last month. So that was very encouraging. How to keep customer contacts alive was another question. Web meetings, we went into this COVID shutdown with great expectations. We would do a lot of online meetings to take the place of our personal sales presentations, and that fell short of our initial expectations, I think, for everyone. We thought it'd be a lot more prevalent than what it's turned out. More phone contacts. We've done a lot of online meetings through the phone more so than video, where we've actually more like a conference call. We ended up doing more with the ability to show slides as we need. Visits when able. In the US, I've been traveling for about 2 months. And you know, everybody is practicing the social distance as much as you can in an airport. On the planes, you've got masks. So we've been able to move around pretty good in the last couple months. The only problem is when you go somewhere, I had one trip, we lost 80% of the meetings we had set up. They couldn't go through because their areas got into what we call a red zone. So you got to be a little flexible. But as long as hand sanitizer doesn't cause cancer in the next couple years, I think we'll all be fine, because I have used more than my share, I guarantee, especially in airports. Social media, we've seen quite a bit of activity, quite a few of these webinars in social media. It's really taken off well. You see it now everywhere on LinkedIn, quite a few of them. How to serve customers. We've been able to be very innovative. In one particular instance was with a company in China. And you have to appreciate the complexity of these heat treat quench and temper lines. We started up one via video. Our whole engineering department, commissioning department with the customer's engineering department, was managed to work through video and with modem connections through our power sources and into the controls. And it was something that was completely unheard of. We would never even fathom this, that we could do this, and we pulled it off. Very successful. The system is in production. It was in China, and it was about February. Just to, let me run the video that I've got to show everybody, Jennifer, if you could, just to show the complexity of these lines, to get a grasp of this task that we took on. That really showed us we have a lot more versatility than we thought with electronics and through the media. So if you could run that video, Jennifer. So this is a heat treat quench and temper. We just finished the contract last week. You can see the pipe coming up to 1650 to 1850, depending on the alloy. But here's a quench system. It has to be heated up very uniform. In the vaults to the right and left are big multi-megawatt power supplies. And you see all this handling, moving 40-foot pieces of pipe. Now it's going into the temper side, going back through to the cooling bed. And again, 43-second video. I just wanted to give you a feel of the complexity. Just wanted to give you a feel of the complexity of these lines. Now imagine doing that remote from the US and Ohio, which is our corporate engineering group, with China. It was an amazing feat that was accomplished. But COVID has stretched our limits and shown us that we can do things beyond what we thought was capable. We're working closer with vendors. During some of our startups, we've had other vendors, like for hydro test and things, come to us and say, we couldn't send our people. Do you have people on the ground? So we're able to forge a few more relationships with vendors a lot closer. More focused on planned personal meetings, I have as a note. When we do go out, it's a lot more focused. We have a bigger agenda. We spend more time with the customers. And that's proven to be very successful for us in building relationships. More time with each other. Our company is doing training. Like I run the bar.
To everybody, thank you very much for the folks and for ITA for this opportunity. The first slide.
Of course.
Okay, thank you. So as everybody experienced, coronavirus impacted severely all our lives. So especially the social part of our activity and our life. So I'm going to tackle this this panel mostly from the commercial point of view. So the sociality and the commercial aspect of the business is very, very important. This virus impacted heavily this part of the business. So obviously we are bound to travel, so we cannot anymore travel to visit our customer, okay, or we can do it only in a limited way. We have problems to have dinner and customer with lunch. So, you know, as Italian, avoiding a glass of wine is really a drama with the customer. And obviously also the entertainment has been canceled. So we have a very few occasions to interact with our customer to keep them working with us. So we should really looking how to interact with them, how to keep the relation alive, how to let me say, build some relation to keep going with the business. So we should for sure organize our marketing differently. So maybe start to use a social network, I mean a video conference and phone calls on a much regular basis, but also some newsletter, like technical newsletter. We should involve really much more the customer in our business life, understanding that we are present and we are working with them. Another very important part of the customer relation, how to recover it and to keep the customer with us, is for sure the customer service. So we have to understand that in many industries, the people working in the companies, in most of our customers, has been obliged to, okay, slide number 2, perfect, has been obliged to work on from home, so with smart working, home working. So they are really not anymore in the situation to interact with their colleagues and to have a possibility to access to the paper, on whatever they need. So for sure, investing a little bit more in our IT system, give the customer the opportunity to touch our industry, to enter in their order processing, in the certificates, in the delivery notes, having much more access to our system, allow them to work much better. And for sure, everybody prefers to work with people where there is very easy to entertain business. One of the other main issues is the personal relation with the customer. So this is, I think, the most important aspects of the organization, and how to conserve, preserve, and improve our customer relation with it. So what is very important is to understand that our business is made by interaction. So the difficulties to travel, the band to travel, the band to meet them face to face, wake up again much more than before. They need to have a local contact, so a local man, local guy, a local organization that is working on your name for you in the market. So unfortunately, it's not anymore possible taking a flight in Beijing the day after being Milano, making a business, or from US or from Germany coming to Milano. That is not anymore easy. It's not anymore possible. So you need somebody in the local market, and that is most probably the very, very important points that most of the industry, in the steel industry, should understand, that we needed to organize our business much more local, especially from the commercial point of view. Could you go with the slide, please? Jennifer? Okay. Because what is very important and is the mantra for the business, is the mantra of the commercial guy, is that people do business with people they like. Know and trust. So that's very important. If you cannot travel anymore, you should have somebody local that get the trust of the customer, get the knowledge of the customer, and stay with them and keep going with the business. So it's very, very important to understand and to reorganize themselves in this way. So there is no customer that places an order over the phone just because at once in a time, a nice phone call. Please. Again, I want to underline what is the rules of a good relationship. So the rules of a good and strong partnership with your customer. That's for sure. Treat every relation like an investment. So with our partner, local partner, or with our customer, we should always have a very open, transparent relation. We should listen more than before what the customer is going to say us. So there's difficulties with payments, with financing, there is difficulties with the deliveries. We have many, many difficulties to keep the business running. And today we have to listen much more than before what the customer is saying to us. And for sure, language barriers, local people can absolutely make it easy understand what's going on. We should be always generous and authentic, because we are human. We understand when somebody lied to us. So please. And last and not least, I would like to underline some points that is very important, because during this coronavirus period, everybody understood the very importance of to have a loyal customer, to have a regular customer, to have a customer that stay with us in the good time, in the bad time. So I would like to, let me say, refresh to everybody some very simple rules, but they are the mantra of a good working company with a good customer service and good opportunity to have business with them. So it's acquiring new customer always costs 5 times more than keeping an old customer. So we should build a loyal customer. We should have a loyal customer and regular customer with us. We have also to remember that increasing the customer retention, so the customer stay with us and give a regular business, only 5% can bring 25 to 30% increase in our profit. So we should really understand that loyal customer, regular customer is very important, and people that can keep the customer loyal with us. We should also listen that the successful rate of selling to your existing customer is 60 to 70% compared to 20% of the new customer. So the old customer is always ready to listen to you, your proposal, your business, your new opportunity. So we should focus on the loyal customer, especially in this very, very tight period. And the last simple rules, 5% improvement in customer retention can easily increase our profit by even 25%. So local people that are able to keep your customer with you and not lose the customer is the way to survive in this very tough time. So I'm ready to interact with the folk and understand the different point of view. Thank you.
Enrico. Thank you very much, Enrico. I think we have a number of questions which are raised, and we have a little question to the entire group of our joining people, and then we will tackle the questions. Jennifer, I think you will, after you have asked your question, you will ask the questions for our colleagues then.
Yeah, thanks a lot to everybody so far. I would like to go through the questions and we'll give over to you. And whenever anybody would like to say something to this question, just feel free. I've already unmuted the whole panel discussion. Mr. Hans, I think you have to, yeah, perfect. The first question is, the automotive recovery of sales is quite impressive by July. China 110%, USA 80%, and even Europe 70%. That sounds quite encouraging. What are your expectations for the rest of the year? Maybe.
Well, I think we already have seen the strongest period of recovery. The next recoveries will be on a more flat basis, especially in China. Nevertheless, we think that China will be a very important market in the future. Comparably, when you see US and Europe, these are saturated markets. I think the demand for new vehicles, at least on the private side, will not be as strong as in a growing country like China or perhaps India.
Thanks. Anybody else, or shall we just go forward? Okay, then the second question. Mechanical engineering is still not really recovering. This segment is probably much more suffering from the travel restrictions causing reduced sales opportunities. If we understand your assumption, it seems to be unlikely that the oil price will recover to levels higher than $50 to $60 per barrel. That means that it's very unlikely that the OCTG market will recover in the next years. How do you see the expectations for the next 3 years?
I think, Frank, you may answer the first one, and I will answer the second one if you agree. I think these were two questions.
Yeah, I think the market for machinery is really strongly affected. Machinery these are long life products, and the customers are very cautious to invest big money in these uncertain times. I think the first thing everyone is thinking about now is cash is king. And before the machinery market and other markets too, but especially the machinery market, can really strongly recover, the uncertainty has to disappear. I think we are on a good way, but many people are unsure whether we will have a second wave of COVID or not. Perhaps in autumn we will see a bit clearer, and hopefully after this and at the latest at the beginning of the next year, the market will start to recover in machinery again.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I will just answer the second part of the question. Well, I think we have to acknowledge that unless the consumption of oil and gas is really recovering, and the consumption of oil and gas is very much dependent on the industrial activities worldwide, we will not see that there will be a great recovery. On the second side, we have to also acknowledge that the production of oil and gas is more than the consumption at all. We have some artificial influences in the past already, political influences to reduce the production of oil and gas in the world. We have certainly some countries like the OPEC who is trying at a certain point of time to reduce the production of oil and gas. Nevertheless, at the moment, the power of the OPEC is not as great as it used to be, because now the largest producer of oil and gas are the United States. And there you can see the moment the oil price goes up, the shale gas and shale oil producers will produce oil again. So I do suspect that the prices will not significantly go up in the next period of time unless there are some major political inventions that may cause again that the supply side will be significantly reduced. So I'm not so positive in regarding the OCTG market.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, that there was quite an investment in 2019 and 2018 in OCTG capital equipment. So there's quite a bit of capacity that's still coming online, and the demand isn't there. So from a capital standpoint, equipment standpoint, I really don't see a lot of growth into the 2021 area because of that. It's definitely held us through 2020, through the bad times, really well. But going into 2021, I think it's going to be a hinder from a capital sales standpoint.
I think it will even be that some of the pipe producers serving the OCTG will close down capacities and have to close down capacities. And, you know, we have had some of the older mills that, particularly in the United States, who really were put into business again. And I think some of them will definitely go out of business again. And we will see that there will be quite a reduction of production on that side.
I would like to unmute Mr. Grandi because he would like to ask a question as well. Hopefully it works. He has to unmute himself, but I have already.
Hello?
Yeah, now it's working.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a couple of questions regarding basically you see the general concept, how the market is distributed. I think that somebody was a little bit surprised about the, let's say, big portion of the market in the hands of the OCTG. I would say that, and I think Gunther can confirm that this is a sort of consolidated distribution of the market that we see in for many years in the history of pipes. This is to say that is from this viewpoint is not let's say a configuration that has been generated by external factors like in the present period of the COVID-19. My first question was regarding the issue of the construction market. I don't know if the provisions that has been shown in your table, Gunther, are already considering, let's say, the issues that has been opened in the last months regarding the use of the recovery funds, because you know that a lot of a significant amount of money should be at disposal of the different countries for a new investment. And I'm supposing, I'm living in Italy, that there is a great expectation regarding the possibility to start a new investment in the construction market. So I have no idea if somebody has already done some updated forecast, taking into account that there is going to be hopefully a significant, let's say, movement in the investment due to the availability of the recovery funds. And the same question is, to a certain extent, is arising when we are talking about the automotive industry, because I think that what is happening now in China is probably a little bit different from the forecast that you might have on European market regarding the automotive industry, for many reasons, you know, because people at the moment, due to the specific situation, is not do not like to invest, and consequently, I don't know how much this automotive market will recover to a previous situation before the event of the COVID-19.
Giampiero, if you might introduce yourself just briefly, because most of us will know you, but maybe some people don't know you. So give a little hint about your background, and then we will try to answer your questions.
Okay. Sorry about that. I forgot to introduce myself. I think that I've been working in, let's say, the tube industries for more than 35 years. We work also together with Gunther at the time of SMS, and I follow up this business for two of the most important producers of machinery for this market that are SMS and Danieli. I've been recently also involved in the startup of one of the most of the recent new seamless piping plant in USA. So I know quite well what we suffered also in the OCTG market. In spite of this new occurrence, I think that this market is continuously suffering an up and down of the oil price that is heavily affecting the market, and as a consequence, also new investments.
Thank you very much, Giampiero. So coming back to your first question, which was regarding the construction, I do think that you are probably right. The figures I was presenting, they were generated by Ferry Research. That is a research company who had certainly made quite intensive researches themselves. I do think that there is a good chance that some of the state donated money will go into the construction market as well. And therefore, I do think that the construction market is probably at the moment one of the more interesting markets for pipe producers at all. But we have to acknowledge that there is a strong fight between concrete structures and steel and pipe structures. So we have to do from our side a lot of lobbying work to promote the tubular and steel products against concrete structures. Frank, yes, do you want to comment on the mechanical?
Well, concerning structures, certainly tubes play a certain role in this part of the industry, but and we think that the share of tubes in construction will go up a bit, but we do not think this will be such a big impact. I think the oil and gas sector will be the most important one, and automotive and machinery will follow. Maybe the structure industry will come on place for.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any further questions?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Then I will remove you, Mr. Grandi, if it's okay for you.
Yeah.
Maybe he comes back.
Yeah, just raise your hand. Yeah. And then I have some further questions to OCTG. Regarding the construction market, you do not see such a difficult situation. Is it possible for a tube plant dedicated for OCTG to shift to the construction market?
Yeah, I think both. That is not an easy question. You know, if you see an OCTG plant is very, very much had to invest very much in the finishing facilities, because they have special materials what they process, and they have quite a tremendous investment in their finishing yards and their special requirements. These requirements for the construction market are different. The materials are much less sophisticated, and the finishing yards are much easier. So the problem of an OCTG plant is their cost level. If they go and try to compete with the dedicated plants of construction, who are really able to produce construction pipes at a relatively low price level, they have really difficulties to meet these price requirements. So it is not so easy, because they have a lot of infrastructure which is not required for an OCTG plant, for a construction plant.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. From a mill standpoint, you know, it's not so much different. You have seam annealers in OCTG to anneal the weld in an ERW, and you can take those offline and run. But then it goes back to what you said, Gunther, the whole finishing mill, you don't need it. So you have this increased overhead that you really can't get any value out of.
Okay, then we have another question. How do you think what will be with the US OCTG market next year? Up or down comparing with 2020? Don.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to what I was saying. We had such good record years in 2019 and a good year in 18 that capacity, we're still installing capacity that was sold back then. So going into 2021, we're hopeful. I mean, we all want it to be better. We're hearing, you know, mid-year is where we're going to see more activity in OCTG. I think there's going to be some of the smaller groups, and some people are going to go out of business maybe, and that might spawn some additional business in the industry. But as far as a new capacity and production, I think it's going to be another slow year, at least through the first 2 quarters. We're hopeful for the last half to be better.
Thanks. Then what is your opinion on what the OCTG market will rebound enough to start capital spending? Where do you think that will happen first?
In OCTG?
Yeah.
Man, that's a hard one, because right now, again, you have so much, you have new capacity coming online. From a capital investment standpoint, there's new mills coming online. Like I said, there's 4 new finishing facilities. We're just starting into our 4th install now. That's going to take us through the end of the year. But all that capacity is coming on next year. I don't see it very good.
And then just one question: what is the biggest challenge for tube producers and industry customers in Europe the coming years?
In Europe, I mean, we're seeing some activity in Europe pretty good. We're going to pretty much see there, I want to say it's more construction and mechanical than OCTG, which is holding its own from what we see in the construction and mechanical, and as reported by my colleagues, doing better than the OCTG. So we see some activity, and we see some good planning going on in Europe. Our Italian division, Imity, is booking orders, and we've got, you know, it's a lot lower level, but we do have activity that looks like it's going to come into 2021, more in the mechanical side, the construction.
I do agree with that. I think the investment is majorly based or dedicated to construction, and also a little bit to the mechanical side. And because most people expect there are some growth, On the automotive side, I think we see people right now heavily struggling. I think Frank knows much better than me, and I think so. But OCTG is difficult, and pipeline is even, that means the large OD pipes is even more critical, because the pipeline business is down at the moment. I don't know, Frank, what do you think?
Well, certainly challenges for the European market as well as for the world market too. On the first point, it's the overcapacity in the market. We have too much capacity and too low demand. Especially for Europe, we have an additional problem, and this is the trend to outplace production out of Europe into other markets, especially to those regions where we have lower costs and where we have our key markets. Products we exported in the past from here to, let me say, China. Now China is able to produce these tubes of himself. And see the automobile industry, we have new works all over the world, and we have the trend that the production of single finished products is following this trend. So we have tube works serving the automobile industry in the whole of the world, and a part of them in former times was in Germany or in Europe and is now somewhere else.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Before we start with the next questions for the second part of our web conference, I would like to start a short survey I have forgotten before. Just 1 second. Yeah. By when do you see that you have stabilized your customer contacts for acquisition and execution of projects and contracts? Maybe you can all vote shortly. Up to 6 to 12 months, you think you can see. Thanks a lot. Can a physical exhibition fair be complemented by web tools as a hybrid event to engage also such customers, visitors who are restricted to travel to a fair during Corona?
Yeah, I'd like to take that. That goes back to having a web-based conference entry, I believe is your question, correct? If you have a conference, some people are
fair. We are talking about fair and exhibition.
Yeah, and a web-based adder to that, correct?
Yeah.
I attended one before COVID, and surprisingly, I was very pleased with it, and it was very productive. It was amazing. It had areas for vendors that you could enter into. We found that because of the web-based, like I have 44 or more PowerPoint presentations, I was able to ask questions. People could bring up presentations in more detail and do a little more one-to-one. So there is technology out there that works very well to accent the absence of, say, people wanting to travel to the trade show. And I think that the trade shows forward should add that as a part, because there is technology. I experienced it once and it was very good. And I thought it was going to catch on a lot more in COVID. But I think a lot of the exhibitions have been more canceled. But I think, you know, there's like our ITA conference coming up. I think that would be a very nice adder if you could add that, because the technology I have experienced, and it is very good. It takes a little bit to set up because you've got electronic booths now, and people enter into your booth, and then you can talk to them one-to-one. So the technology is there, and I think it should be a technology that's used more and more to get attendance to the conferences.
So we will have our big event, the Tube exhibition in Düsseldorf in December. So you think, Don, that this might be an interesting approach to compensate some of the attendants and visitors who are not allowed to travel. You know, we will probably still face some traveling restrictions from some parts of the world. Within Europe, I think it will be more or less okay, but from some parts like China, maybe also the US and South America, maybe. So you think that this is would be an interesting venue?
Yeah, it's like I said, I actually attended one, and I figured I'd be there for 10 minutes and gone, you know, it'd just be, you know, more of a webinar kind of thing. But no, I ended up staying for several hours, and it was very interesting to be able to go through, because being able to talk to the people one-to-one live, just like we're doing right now, and to be able to share content, it really allowed people to focus, the technology is there. I experienced it. So I think it's definitely a good adder to every conference. And I'm surprised it hasn't been used more, but I think it hasn't because, you know, there's been cancellations more so than now we're going to start seeing conferences coming as everything starts to get better. So I really think it would be a good adder. It's definitely to our ITA show coming up. I think you'll get a lot more attendance. There's still a lot of people very scared to travel. And I've been traveling for 2 months, and like I said, it's kind of scary. They're doing well, but it's still kind of scary. So I think that's the way to truly get the industry moving again and involved, personally.
Okay.
I think web-based conferences and presentations are a good add-on, and certainly they are better than to have nothing. But I do not think that they will completely replace real events.
I would agree. I would agree. If we have this I would say web-based communications, it is not so easy because you don't see the real body language of the people. So and it is also like Enrico said in his presentation. You know, it is a lot of trust and all sympathy which goes along with the success. And I think this is not so easy to be built up in a video conference, certainly. So I think it cannot, it is also my opinion, it cannot really replace, but on the other hand, it is maybe a tool, an additional tool to help out a special situation for a temporary, at least for a temporary situation.
I think that's it right there. I think you just said it. To replace an in-person, I've been in it 39 years, and I still have trouble. You know, I'm used to sitting across from somebody, looking at their eyes, and you know, working that way. So, but I've done a lot of online presentations with Asia and Europe, so I'm familiar with that venue. But I still don't think it's going to replace the physical conference. But an adder to the people that can't travel with restrictions during this COVID, knowing the technology is out there, I think is a good adder.
Okay. Thank you. We will think about it. How and we will also discuss maybe with Messe Düsseldorf to what extent something like that can also be added there. Maybe ITA can do something there. Okay.
Enrico, how is your line?
Much better. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Then I will just read the question once again because I think that's better for you. Web-based customer communication lack empathic and body signals. How do you compensate such deficits in your acquisition attempts?
Let me say that it's not very easy to compensate via web what you can have on the face-to-face meeting. So personally, I'm trying to recall the same offers, the same discussion a couple of times, trying to call the customer in a moments where they are not busy, because one of the most difficult things when you have a video call or web call with the customer is that they are not paying full attention on you. There is a lot of distraction during the communication. So most of the time, it's an example now, the line is not always super, so most of the time it's difficult. So I try always to keep it short and maybe having coming back or recall some the day after in order to be sure that the arguments has been completely discussed and very clear for the customer. So let me say it's a little bit of much more work, double work sometimes, but let's keep running.
Thanks a lot. Then I would like to go forward. Corona creates a buyer's market. How do suppliers cope with this situation?
I mean, we've seen some supply chain deficiencies, sporadic. It's a lot better than we expected. And we were able to switch around in a lot of cases with vendors to get our supply. So on our shipments, I think it's delayed a couple here and there, but it's much better than we expected from a supply chain standpoint.
I think we had major problems in the second quarter when supply chains really were interrupted, at least for, let me say, a week or two. But for God's sake, this all was cleared and done, and now I think supply chains are working again. Perhaps with one exception, we are really concerned because of the supply chain in the automobile industry. Very smaller suppliers of the automobile industry are in severe problems, and we are not sure whether they will survive or not. And if an important small supplier of the automobile industry should close down, and we have no one who can replace him, this would be a real big problem for the whole industry. You can't sell a car without a steering wheel.
Well, with the slower business, we're been able to switch and manufacture internally a little bit more. I think if we didn't have that ability, we would see more of a supply chain issue. That's for certain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next question. Some suppliers have received financial support from the government. Is this money also used to buy contracts?
I think I'm going to take that one too. I've got a current situation with that over in Europe that just mind-boggling. We have a major customer that has purchased what is known as market value on capital equipment at a 60% of that market value, and with a smaller company. And when we looked at it and looked at our cost and everything else, I mean, nobody can produce this equipment at that cost. So the only answer is, you know, they have some type of loan or subsidy that they're using to offset to be able to offer that kind of price. It's a smaller company, and the question comes in and that we put up was the fact that, you know, you got to pay that back at some point. And when that comes due and you're a smaller entity and you bid off that much, I think some people are really going to get in trouble. But we have seen that here recently. I mean, in the last month, to every vendor's surprise in the industry. And it wasn't a small company in the middle of nowhere. It was a very large entity that, you know, 60% of market value, somewhere between 50 and 60%. There's no way to do that outside of having additional funds.
Well, from the point of the EU, let me say, rules for getting public money are very strict here. And as soon as you get some public money, you really need it to survive. You will not be able to spend it for investments or buying contracts.
We would hope, but there, you know, we've all determined, I mean, there's really no other explanation in this one project.
Here. Then Enrico, I think there's one question for you. The travel restrictions demand for local representing partners. We have experienced that it is difficult to identify such local partners with adequate qualification. How do you tackle this challenge?
Today, the technology is supporting us much more than the past, let me say. For sure, the LinkedIn can help a lot because you can read the story of the guy, the local connection. So if you have existing customers and talking with them, they can give you a background of who is the player in the market that can support you. So I think again, interaction. So you should really focus on your market, understanding what you want to do, and asking to the market who can be the right guy. And most of the time, the customer will give you the answer or give you support. Then you can make a research and approach these people and this organization, this person to ask for help. It's again personal relation and communication with the people. It's the key for such activity.
Yeah. Then we have received just one question in written. Do you think in the near future we can see pipeline to transport hydrogen and not only oil and gas?
Well, certainly. We are in a discussion about using hydrogen in Europe, and especially in Germany, since a few months. And the line pipe system in Europe is capable to transport hydrogen to at least to a large extent, up to 60–70% if it's a new one, and 20–30% if it's an old one.
Una domanda.
Yeah, these were all questions we have received in advance or during the web conference. Gunther, I would like to ask you to close our web conference officially.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I think we are in a good time. I hope that you all have enjoyed this first web-based conference with our panel specialists. I do like to thank our panel specialists for their contribution. Thanks very much. This was very, very interesting. And I think particularly in such a delicate situation, it is very good that we have been able to generate US specialists to join our sessions. Thank you also very much for the questions and from our attending ladies and gentlemen from the auditorium. And I would like to wish you all the best for our business, and I hope that we will see again soon, also not only on the web but also personally. And please, if you have some topics you would like to be discussed in our next web conference, please don't hesitate to send us a mail with the topics you are interested to talk about. And maybe if you have also some proposal for panel speakers, please don't hesitate to contact the ITA, Jennifer or myself, and we will then take care of that. Thanks very much. It was a little bit more than we expected. It is more than 60 minutes. We were making some almost 80 minutes, but I think we are just in time. Thank you very much to everybody. All the best to you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you all. Stay safe.